Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we are going to be making this pastel rainbow tumbler that my niece had requested. So she picked out all of the glitters and what she wanted for her vinyl, names, things like that. And I'm going to show you how I made it. So we're going to start off by spray painting the tumbler in pastel-ish colors. And then we're going to use the epoxy method to apply the glitter. I will tell you this yellow glitter right here, I would change if you're going to replicate this design. I picked a lot of iridescent glitters. All of them, in fact, are iridescent, except this one yellow that we decided on, and it's metallic, and it did not go well. So I ended up going back. You'll see that later in the video that I covered that yellow up, but just so you know, if you're replicating this, the metallic does not look very good with the iridescent. So we're going to lay down all these glitters using kind of a gentle hand, and we're going to road map these glitters in. We're not going to do full coverage. And to blend them, we're going to tip the tumbler at about a 45-degree angle, and we're going to cascade the glitters up and down like you've seen me do a few times in the past. If you're not familiar with ombre, I would go back to my last leopard stripe video. I did kind of a live in-person demo on the tutorial. It's very slowed down. It's in the moment. It's not sped up like a normal tutorial is. And it really helps you to learn how to ombre if you don't have that skill yet. Once I've road mapped all of my colors, I'm going to go back over it with finer cut glitters that match those chunkier cuts to fill in that blend and any of the spray paint that might be peeking through. That's just going to fine tune everything, make sure everything's full coverage. And then once all of that is laid down, I'm going to take a piece of printer paper and pat all of my glitters down. Because this is already such a big cup, we want to lessen the coats of epoxy that are going to be needed to make the tumbler nice and smooth, because you definitely don't want to turn this into a weapon. So smoothing that glitter out while the epoxy is wet is going to be your best preventative measure to ensuring a smooth cup, first of all, and second, that you don't have a 10-pound water bottle that you're having to carry around, because by the time you get liquids in this thing is going to be heavy. So once that is all cured, I did go through and spray seal it twice with Krylon triple thick spray. And once that spray was dried, I made sure to tape that top rim. I didn't film that, but you definitely want to make sure that's taped off, and we're going to apply the epoxy. I do go pretty heavy-handed in that top little crease there right below where that painter's tape is. It's easier to just kind of glob the epoxy in there to make sure it's actually covered up, and then kind of pull it away and smooth it out once it's laid on. So I would recommend doing that just to make sure you got all that glitter covered up with epoxy. And I did 2 coats before this step. This is from one of my BFFs, who I'm so thankful to have in my life. I love her very much, and she is incredibly talented. This pattern is from Paint Between Dreams. If you don't follow her stuff, she is an incredible artist. She does a lot of like hand painting, does a lot of patterns, things like that. So she's got a website, I'll link below for you guys. I just took this 12 by 12 sheet of vinyl and I cut out a wavy kind of rainbow stripe out of the pattern, kept the little scraps for something else, and then I'm going to implement this into this design. Now, I wish that this tumbler was straight, because I would have done a better job kind of integrating this wave into the full design of the cup and wrapped it around fully. But my niece wanted this one for, you know, summertime or when she's got practice or whatever. She wanted something that was like closed off and not like a 20-ounce skinny, how they can always like tip and spill. She wanted something that just was going to be spill proof. So we came up with this tumbler that seals really well, and I had to kind of get creative with the wave here that we've got going on. So I just kind of cut it out, and then like cut it out of the pattern, and then cut it out again to fit onto this tumbler, excluding the top that was kind of concaved where the lid goes, because if you're doing that, your vinyl is going to wrinkle. So I just made sure to cut off the edge of it before it got to that top curved rim, and all was well. So here I'm just mapping that out and cutting it to fit the design, and then we'll go ahead and lay down our vinyl. Once I've got the vinyl cut into the shape that I want it to be into, I am going to use the hinge method to apply this. If you don't know what the hinge method is, you're going to cut about 1 inch of the backing off of the vinyl carrier sheet. You're going to stick that hinged piece of vinyl to the tumbler, and then you're going to press the vinyl and adhere that to the cup while you're pressing the backing off of the cup. This is going to allow you to have a nice smooth application, minimal air bubbles underneath that vinyl. With this one, it wasn't really necessary because it's just such a small piece of vinyl, but with full wraps, like a 12 by 12 vinyl sheet, I would recommend using that method. Next, I took some of my black vinyl stripes. This is cut at 11.5 inches in width by 0.06 in height. And because it's such a thin strip of vinyl, you're able to easily manipulate it just by kind of tugging on it a little bit and kind of guiding it with your hands as you're placing it on the or over top of the vinyl rainbow there. You can also use nail tape that is much thinner, and I feel like it's a little bit more flimsy. Less options out there for nail tapes probably that stick to the tumblers well. I don't use many of them. I just tend to lean towards vinyl since I know it's got good adhesion. But we're going to take that stripe and we're just going to kind of curve it to mimic the shape of the rainbow here. And the 11.5 inches was a little bit short, and so thankfully with black vinyl, you can overlap them, and once you get them under epoxy, you can't even tell that they're overlapped. So you'll see here at the end, it doesn't quite reach the edge there, so I'm going to take my vinyl and just kind of patch that in, overlap those two stripes, and cut it off, and you don't even see it in the design. Next, I used the curving feature or the wave feature in Cricut Design Space, and I typed out the name, I turned it into a wavy shape, and then I created two offsets. I want to say they're both 0.53 inches. I believe that's correct. That's typically what I go for in an offset. And I'm going to cut those out in 3 different colors. So I wanted to kind of play off of the black that was in the stripes. I wanted to tie that into something else. So I used that as one of the offsets, and then the white as well to kind of break it up so it's not so harsh. So I'm just going to overlap those using my transfer sheet here, and then we'll apply that directly to the tumbler and move on to our final steps. Because I've got such thin vinyl work here, I want to make sure that it's not going to lift under my coats of epoxy. Thin striped vinyl and metallic vinyl, as I've preached over and over again to you guys, is really notorious for lifting under epoxy. And so I use some polycrylic to adhere that down. It takes about 30 minutes to air dry depending on your location and your temperatures, but that's just going to make sure that it's kind of sealed into place before you put your coats of epoxy on there. And then once that's dry, I'm going to go in with a final coat of Flynn Sisters Artist Cure resin. I will link the discount code in the description box below for you guys. And I did add a little bit of Brite from Peachy Olive Glitters into that final coat. I felt like with all of the beautiful glitter that's on the tumbler itself, the vinyl kind of fell flat under that. It just needed, like, it's a beautiful vinyl, but it's not like sparkly at all. And I felt like it just needed a little sparkle. So I put some of that in there, and it just like increased the beauty of that vinyl times 100. And so I was super glad that I did that. And then I didn't tape off that rim for the final coat. I made sure not to slop it over the edge, but then I just took a piece of paper towel and my rubbing alcohol, and I kind of wiped it back in a straight line to make sure it looked nice and clean. And then after that was finished, this tumbler is done. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're not already. Hit that bell button for notifications on future tutorials, and I will see you guys in the next video.